What's up guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel Xman Co. Today we're going to do a beautiful Philly cheesesteak on a roll. It's going to be amazing. Now guys, normally a Philly cheesesteak traditionally would be some ribeye steak, obviously nice and cold thin slices, and then you add some provolone cheese. Some guys even add some cheese whiz cheese, and then right at the end you're going to put that on a beautiful hoagie roll. We don't have hoagie rolls here today, and we're also going to do a twist to this. So we're going to work with some German rolls, and we're going to do Xman Co style today. Stay tuned. Philly cheesesteak, guys, is a very straightforward cook. So we decided to throw a little bit of a twist in there and make it a little bit nicer and elevate it to a next level. Let's do this. First of all, let me introduce you guys to all our ingredients here today. We've got some provolone cheese, German rolls, onion, pepper, red pepper for that matter. We've got some beef drippings here, basically beef fat that we're going to use instead of olive oil. It's going to be brilliant. It's going to add to the flavor. It's going to be amazing. Then we've got some butter, spices, and some garlic. Salt and pepper to taste as always. Let's move on to the next step. Moving on to our ingredients, you want to start with your onion. We're going to cut it in half, obviously remove the skin, and then chop it finely. For this dish, fine onions are going to be perfect. You don't want the onions to disappear completely, but you also want them to be there. Then we've got a red bell pepper here, so we're just going to cut half of it. Half of this pepper will be perfect for this dish. You also want to cube it, so we're going to start with cutting nice straight long pieces, and then 90 degrees, just chop it up finely. Once we got that done, it's time to sort out our rolls. Like I said, we've got German rolls here. Traditionally, you would use hoagie rolls. So we're just going to cut it in half. You don't want to go all the way to the end. You want some meat left, because we're going to sear these, make them nice and crispy on the fire. Next, we've got some butter here, some garlic, and some mixed herbs. We want to just incorporate all of them into each other, mix them nice and well. We're going to spread our rolls. You want to make sure that your rolls are spread nice and evenly throughout the entire surface. Remember, we want a beautiful crust. The more butter on there, the better the crust is going to be. Now it's time to move over to the meat. Few things to remember when you want to try this dish out, Philly cheesesteak. One thing that's very important is to remember that salt actually draws out moisture. So you don't want to add salt or any spices for that matter anywhere before the cook, or at least midway throughout the cook. Right at the end, just before we throw that provolone cheese on, we're going to do some salt and some seasoning. Before that, guys, you want to stay away from it. You also want to do this over a medium heat. We're going to use a flat iron. You can use a skillet or a pan inside your house if that's what you want to do, but medium heat, because you want to try and keep all those ingredients together with a lot of moisture. At the end of the day, this is all about that flavors that we're going to get and that juiciness right at the end. Traditionally, this dish is done with ribeye. We like to use a tomahawk, and we're going to cut the pieces off around it, and essentially you'll be left with a ribeye. We might add a little bit of pieces on the side. We just love all the flavors of a tomahawk. You want to prep your meat by leaving it in the freezer for at least 40 minutes. Remember, cutting this beautiful ribeye, or whatever cut you decided to use, when it's just raw and room temperature, is going to be a disaster. You want to really go for those thin slices, and in order to get that, you need to make sure that your meat is nice and cold and slightly stiff, and that's going to help you to get that perfect thin slices. And then the star of the show, we're going to use a tomahawk today. This is our ribeye over here. It's going to be beautiful. This, guys, this is the whole tomahawk. Obviously, normally this part, the bone, is normally slightly longer. You can see there's some bones on this side, and then there's our axe, the bone of the tomahawk. Now, basically, your ribeye is literally over there, following that fat cap there, all the way here, round back to the same point. This here, guys, this is the flap. So normally you would use only the ribeye for this dish. We like to incorporate a little bit of this part here, and we might even use a bit of this. We're only going to remove the cap. So let's go ahead and cut this baby up. This is the piece, guys, that we're going to use. What you want to do now, if you decide to go the same route, you can remove some fat on the edges. Just trim this baby up a little bit. Right guys, so we want to cut this thinly. So we're going to start off from one side, cut it as thinly as possible. If you battle doing this, then just make sure that you let it freeze for a bit longer. So basically, that's what you want to do right there, nice and thin. So we're going to do the rolls first. It's medium heat, it's not hot at all. We just want to sear it nicely, give it that nice crust. If you have to guys, just every now and again, just push down on them. Then give them 3 to 4 minutes just to make sure that there's a nice buildup of crust. These beautiful German rolls that we've got here today. We're going to move on to the next step, and we're going to use some beef drippings as an oil. You can use olive oil if you want to. Once it's nice and hot, it's time to add the onions. You also want to add your red bell pepper. You want to do your onions exactly to where you want it, translucent or even further. We're going to brown it nicely, and then we're going to remove it from the skillet. We're going to add some beef dripping to this skillet just to make sure it's nicely oiled before we sear our meat. Once we add the meat, you want to make sure that you leave it for at least 2-3 minutes on the one side before you turn it over. You don't want to fully cook this meat, you just want to get it about 2 minutes from perfectly well done, if that's what you're after. After 2-3 minutes, you want to toss it over and add your onions and your peppers. At this stage, you don't want to fully cook it, you just want to bring it to about 80%. Time for our salt and pepper. We're then going to divide our meat into 3 sections. We've got 3 rolls here today. And then guys, it's time for the magic. We're going to add some provolone cheese to each of these heaps and then just let it simmer until the cheese has nicely melted down. Once we got our provolone cheese on, we just want to let it simmer like that. For another 2-3 minutes, we want this cheese to really melt down. That's going to bring so much greatness to this dish. Straight off the fire, no resting time, the meat's thin, and these bad boys wants to be eaten. Now guys, we've got a twist here as well. Some more cheese, why not? Just look at that. Oh, fantastic. Beautiful, just to elevate this Philly cheesesteak on a roll to the next level. Have a look at that, guys. Have a look there. Beautiful. Time to cut this babies up. Look at that, guys. Beautiful. Guys, that's what it's looking like. It's beautiful. Philly cheesesteak style. Let's do this. Cheers, boys and girls. It's time to taste. Wow. This is so flavorful. Wow. Guys, this is amazing. It's seriously crazy, full of flavor. Cheese, provolone cheese, some more cheese sauce. This is great. It's amazing. We should have done this a long time ago. Now, you guys have the opportunity. Please go and try and do this at home. If you have, comment below and tell me what you guys do. We moved away from the traditional Philly cheese steak, but guys, the add-ons here were well worth it. Now guys, you know the story. If you like what we're doing, like, share, subscribe. Enable those notifications so you get notified as soon as we upload a new video. Thanks for watching. We cannot do this without you. We'll see you on the next one.